Have you ever sat in your car for 10 minutes after arriving home, just to savor the silence before walking inside? No phone, no music, just exhaling. Most people call this antisocial. They think you're lonely, or worse, broken. But they're looking at it all wrong. If being around people feels like you're performing a role you never auditioned for, it's not because you're weak. It's because your brain is running 10 tabs at once while everyone else is just scrolling the homepage. You aren't just quiet. You're a high-functioning loner. And today, we're revealing the 5 rare psychological traits that prove your silence is actually your greatest power. We live in a culture that worships the extrovert ideal. Since the early 20th century, we've shifted from a culture of character to a culture of personality. We are told that to be successful, we must be loud, vibrant, and constantly on. But let's look at the biology. In psychology, we often look at the lemon juice test, a famous experiment by Hans Eysenck. He found that introverts and those who prefer solitude have a higher level of cortical arousal. Essentially, your brain's baseline for stimulation is already high. While an extrovert needs a noisy party to feel level, you only need a book or a quiet walk. To you, a normal social environment is actually sensory overload. Think of it like this. An extrovert's mind is like a cold engine that needs the friction of people to warm up. Your mind? Your engine is already running hot. When you add the friction of small talk and social posturing, you don't warm up, you overheat. Trait 1. The hyper-accurate social compass. While others are busy talking, you are busy observing. Because you aren't focused on what to say next, your brain picks up on micro-expressions, the half-second flash of sadness in a friend's eyes, or the slight tension in a colleague's jaw. You don't just hear words, you read the energy behind them. This isn't paranoia. It's a high level of emotional intelligence, EQ. You see the messy environment of human emotion long before anyone else does, which is exactly why you find it so draining to navigate. Trait 2. Intellectual self-sufficiency. Most people use others as a sounding board to form their opinions. They outsource their thinking to the group. People who prefer solitude, however, engage in internal monologue processing. You don't need a committee to decide what you believe. You have an internal laboratory where you stress test ideas before they ever leave your mouth. But the third trait is what truly sets you apart from the rest 80% of the population. It's the difference between being lonely and being formidable. Trait 3. The boundaries of the refuge. There is a profound psychological concept known as environmental competence. For those who crave solitude, their physical space isn't just a room. It's a psychological extension of their identity. Have you noticed how a messy room feels like a loud noise in your head? For you, cleaning and organizing isn't a chore, it's a completion loop. When you clear your desk, you are literally clearing a path for your dopamine to flow. You use your environment to set psychological boundaries. By controlling your space, you are reclaiming your identity from a world that tries to clutter your mind with its own expectations. Trait 4. Radical authenticity, the absence of performative socializing. In psychology, self-monitoring describes how much a person changes their personality to fit a social group. High self-monitors are social chameleons, but those who prefer solitude? They are typically low self-monitors. Because you spend so much time alone, you know exactly who you are. You find it physically painful to fake it. This is why you hate small talk. It's not that you can't do it. It's that it feels like a lie. You value depth over breadth. You'd rather have one conversation about the meaning of life than 50 conversations about the weather. This is a truth bomb for many. Your awkwardness is actually just a refusal to be inauthentic. Trait 5. The deep work threshold. Cal Newport coined the term deep work, the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. People who enjoy solitude have a shorter path to the flow state. While others are addicted to the dopamine hits of notifications and likes, you are wired for the slow burn of mastery. The twist: we've been conditioned to think that doing is the only way to be productive. We use habit stacking to cram more into our days. But for the solitary soul, the most productive thing you can do is nothing. In the silence, your brain engages the default mode network, DMN. This is where your greatest insights are born. Your need to be alone isn't an escape from reality. It is the very place where you create your reality. You aren't running away from the world. You are retreating to your workshop to figure out how to lead it. If you've spent your life feeling like an outsider because you need the door closed, I want you to hear this clearly. You are seen. Your preference for solitude is not a deficit of social skill. It is an abundance of self-awareness. You have a rare capacity for depth in a shallow world, and that is a gift, not a burden. You don't need to fix your introversion. You need to protect it. But let's not just leave this as a nice thought. Let's use the psychology of shrink the start. To reclaim your power today, I don't want you to reorganize your whole life. I want you to do one tiny thing. Find just 5 minutes today, only 5, where you turn off your phone, sit in total silence, and ask yourself one question. What part of me have I been hiding just to make others comfortable? Don't write it down. Don't post it. Just sit with the answer. The world is loud enough. You don't need to add to the noise. You just need to be the person who listens to the silence. If this video felt like a mirror, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 5 traits hit home the hardest? Drop a comment below. It helps me know I'm talking to the right people. And if you're ready to stop apologizing for needing space, hit subscribe. We're just getting started.